this is Debby Boone, and you are listening to Days Gone By on UNC Radio.
Shalom, everyone. Welcome back to the Daverhood on this Dave's Gone By episode. I'm very, very happy to be talking to a non-Jew. This is very rare for me. Usually we're a very insular culture. I only talk to people who look like me, with the beards and the long payas curls and the mustaches, and those are just the women. But I'm so excited. Wow, not a laugh at all on that. I'm so sorry. But there will be laugh. There we go. That delightful laugh, that voice that you are hearing is a voice that has sold millions of records, zillions. Let's add a zero on there. It's my funny accounting like Bernie Madoff. It's zillions of records that this lady has sold over the years on the pop charts, the country music charts, you should forgive the expression, the Christian music charts. She is a very talented woman. She's won 3 Grammy Awards, including Best New Artist, a couple of Gospel Awards. She won an award from the Academy of Country Music. And what's wonderful is if you want to hear her sing live and in person, you can do that this month, March 19th through the 30th. She will be at the Cafe Carlisle, this legendary venue on East 76th Street in Manhattan. She is Debby Boone, and she is with us in the neighborhood. Shalom and welcome, Debby.
Shalom.
How are you? How are you doing? How you feel about this new show that you are doing?
I am so excited, both about the new show, and it is brand new, and I've been putting it together for some time, and I'm thrilled to have this opportunity. But this is my first engagement at the Cafe Carlisle, and I couldn't be happier about that.
So, but you have done cabaret and other spots and other spaces. How is that different from doing theater, which you have done? You have done musicals on Broadway and touring. What is the difference about being up there almost alone?
I think you're very much more exposed in a cabaret setting than certainly if you're playing a character and doing musical theater.
Is that kind of show, huh? Yes?
Yeah, or, I do performing arts centers, big houses where there's a lot of distance between you and the audience, and you put on maybe more of a production show. But when you're in a cabaret setting like the Cafe Carlisle, where it's, 70 to, I think, maybe 90 people tops that can seat, they're up close and personal, and the expectation, I believe, when you go to cabaret is that you are going to get more of a personal view into who that person is and how they think and their perspective, as well as listening to the music they create.
Now, do you get butterflies in the stomach, any stage fright, and is it different when you're part of a big show or just you and the piano and boom?
I get it everywhere, every time. I've, over the years, gotten, I think, a lot better at accepting that and dealing with it instead of resisting it. You let it work for you a little bit. And I think what helps me the most is, in life and in my profession, is to quit thinking about myself and what everybody thinks about me and put my focus more on the people that I am talking to or singing for.
And in this particular engagement, which, by the way, is called Swing This, which sounds really filthy, but since you're doing it, I know it's not. What? I know you're working on an album of that title and of that idiom as well, so what songs are you swinging?
Well, the concept of the show really begins... I was a very young girl when my dad played Las Vegas, and it had a great impact on me from the time I was about 8 years old to the various different times that I went back to Las Vegas over the years. Musically and professionally, I think that was what really set the stage for me entering music in my own life. And I have a lot of observations and kind of anecdotal stories, but mostly what it's about is the kind of music that you would have heard coming from the showrooms in Las Vegas in that classic golden age, the early 60s, that great music which has been my favorite music since that time and will continue to be, I'm sure. A great American songbook, of course, but I have nine-piece band here at the Cafe Carlisle, and they're the best musicians that you can find in New York, which is saying a whole heck of a lot, right? And
well, yes.
It has that energy and the fun and the swing of that time in Las Vegas.
Now, let me also, we did not say this before, but when you mentioned, oh, yeah, I was 8 years old when my father was playing Vegas, your father is, of course, Pat Boone, the singer from the 50s and 60s and beyond. And so, can I ask, Debby Boone, what your earliest memories were growing up, I mean, being a young kid in the middle of Vegas and the showrooms and the clubs and your father's performances?
Well, that's a loaded question. I have so many vivid memories of those times. I think I was not the typical show business kid growing up in, the environment of show business, because my parents tried with everything in them to shield and protect us from the quote-unquote dark side of all of that. I led a very sheltered existence, so when I got to Las Vegas, it was with a family that didn't drink and didn't smoke, didn't gamble, and, they were very protective of us girls, but yet wanted us to be able to be together as much as possible as a family. So, you come into Vegas, and it is anything but the sheltered existence I was used to. And it was thrilling and exciting and had a huge attraction for me, unlike anything I'd ever been exposed to, and I couldn't quite understand what that was all about at 8 years old. And each time I went back, I kind of understood a little bit more about it. But yeah, I grew up in a very tight-knit, close family, and my parents were very hands-on, and you can interpret that however you want as parents, but they were extremely strict. And
now, I read somewhere in an interview that they were so strict, that which you should probably say, how strict were they? They were so strict that Pat Boone, when he had to, would spank you even when you were 18 years old? Is that apocryphal?
There is some truth that needs to be, in context about that. But I pushed my dad's buttons real hard when I was 18. I knew exactly what was going to get him angry, and it did. And he did. He actually tried to turn me over and spank me at 18 years old. I think he regretted it. I regretted that I had, in my own way.
That's funny. I've spanked a few 18 years old and haven't regretted a minute of it. But it was it was different. Well, how would you push your father's buttons? What did you do? Would you wear makeup?
No. You know what my dad didn't like most of all, and I always knew this, was disrespect.
Okay.
And that was the quickest way to have him see red, was to speak in a disrespectful tone or with disrespectful words. And, it was, a bit of an argument where he was, trying to wrangle me and reel me in, and I'm 18 and wanting my independence, and I mouthed off.
And that was, but my gosh, but by your early 20s, had things totally settled? You had changed, you understood, where your dad and mom were coming from, and everything was fine?
Yeah, certainly by then. Although, I literally lived in the home I grew up in until I married at 24 years old. So, it was a bit of a struggle for them to come into a different place of realizing, their roles as parents had to change dramatically. I was an adult, for goodness sake. And, there's maybe it took longer for us than it does for most families to make the transition into, you're my parents, but I am now a full-fledged adult making my own decisions with my life. That took a little time, and it was a struggle for them that I kind of understand now, having gone through it 4 times with my own kids.
That's right, and let me ask, you've been married, I cannot believe this, you have been married almost 35 years. I mean, you barely look 35 years old. How the hell did that happen? But
you're rushing me. We're coming up on 34.
Oh, okay. I said almost. I said nearly. I'm not good at math. What can I tell you? You know, I try to handle a slide rule and I cut myself. Not good at it. But the point is, how do you and your husband, Gabriel Ferrer, and we'll get into all that in his family, but have you make a concerted effort to be different or the same as your upbringing and your parents?
I wouldn't go so far as to say I made a concerted effort to be different. I definitely modified the way that I raised my children. I wasn't as strict, and I certainly made the adjustment at a younger age for my kids than I feel like my parents were able to, realizing that they really needed to be able to make their own decisions and their own mistakes and face their own consequences. And that's, I think, what all good parents are trying to do, is prevent their kids from any kind of unnecessary suffering. And that's all that my parents were trying to do. I think that they needed to let go sooner than they did. But that's all in the past. And like I say, when you understand the motivation, there's no resentment attached to that. I just chose to do it differently.
Oh, I know my mom and dad, they gave me necessary suffering. Tons of it. Always explain, they go, no, this is necessary, and lots of suffering. It's part of my culture, what can I tell you? How did you meet your husband, by the way?
Well, the short answer is I was dating his older brother.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
You tramp, you. Oh.
I dated his older brother, Miguel, who is a wonderful actor. And that's when I first met my husband, Gabriel, his younger brother, Rosemary and Jose Ferrer. Rosemary Clooney and Jose Ferrer had 5 kids together, and my husband is the third and middle child. And it was really about a year after I was no longer dating his brother that we were reintroduced and began a dating relationship of our own. And that was when I was 19 years old, and I've been with him ever since.
Now, most people who get married that young, especially if they're in show business, that becomes, oh, that was the first marriage. That was when I was a teenager. Whether you're Joy Behar or Bonnie Franklin or whoever, it's like you're married 3-4 years, they know it doesn't work, bye-bye. With you, it's 34 years later. What's the difference?
I think if you could really break it down and figure it out, there would be more people whose marriages were lasting longer. To the best of what I can come up with, first of all, we both had a very strong value on marriage and a lifetime commitment, if at all possible. And we were willing to do the work. But I think I have to really, really give the credit to my husband, who, first of all, has the most wonderful and wicked sense of humor that I don't believe there has been a day in my marriage that he hasn't made me laugh.
Wow.
And that is crucial. It's just crucial, I think, to a healthy relationship. It's sort of like that pressure valve, when things are building up. If somebody can make you laugh, then maybe a little of that pressure is released and you can keep working at it. And sometimes I think in many marriages the pressure gets so bad that all the joy and the happiness is drained out of a relationship that once was there and you can't find your way back. I think laughing every day has allowed us to work on the stuff that has been difficult, with hope that we could get back to that joyful place, and we always have.
Well, that's a wonderful... I mean, I know with my dear wife, Miriam Libby, and we've had our ups, our downs, we have 21 and a half beautiful children, but I know at night, whether we're fighting or whatever, if I take my clothes off, she starts laughing, and that just solves everything. She just looks at me, and that's it. So, wow, that didn't get a laugh either. Well, if she gets a laugh, it's more important that she does, I guess. But what different... I mean, you're... with all due respect, you're rich, you're famous, you're beautiful. He's got a wonderful life. What difficulties did you have?
I think not unlike many couples, we had disagreements at times on how to deal with what our kids were going through and disciplinary things. People, I think, don't ever expect that people in the entertainment industry have financial difficulties, but we certainly had our fair share of those when my career was not doing, what I had hoped it would do at certain times, and we had kids in private schools and private colleges and trying to, when you're living under huge financial pressure, it can stress a relationship out. So we had to learn to communicate better and not bottle things up and then explode, which was my technique that I had to realize was not working on any level. I think we've gotten a whole lot better at asking for what we need and talking about the things that hurt, even though it's hard, and working our way through them. And so I think that's, all I really understand about it.
Well, no, that's very good understanding. And also, career-wise, one of the things that you have done is when you can't move forward, you go sideways and find another route. And I say that because you started, of course, with that big song on the pop charts in 1977, You Light Up My Life, and it was enormous. And then, you can't top a juggernaut like that. James, whatever his name, is not going to top Titanic. You got to make different kinds of movies. So you moved for a while to the country charts, and then you moved to the Christian music charts, and you find your own way when the mountain can't be surmounted, as it were.
It's really true, and I wish that I could say, I strategized and I made this move and that move, but, something that probably looks to some people like you had no career strategy and what the heck were you thinking, for me has had the plus kind of advantage of variety that has been incredibly fulfilling over the years. I mean, I never set out to do musical theater, but I got offered an opportunity to do that. And I've done quite a bit of it over the years, and I love it. I didn't ever think in a million years I would write a book. Children's books, but because my husband is an artist, we were asked to do a book together, write it, and he illustrated, and then we had 5 great, beautiful children's books that we loved doing together, and some acting in television and movies, and then cabaret. All of it has been wildly fulfilling for me, because it's all been so different, and I've had to grow and change and learn something new. I didn't have the perfect career trajectory, but it doesn't really matter to me looking back. All of it was such a great learning experience with so much joy and struggle in it. I love the whole thing.
Did you have a favorite role that you have played in musical theater? I mean, you've been in everything from Seven Brides for Seven Brothers on Broadway, and you did Sound of Music at Lincoln Center, and then you've done a bunch more shows on the road. Any particular role in musical theater that you loved most of all?
Well, I think offhand my favorite and most fulfilling role to date was playing Mrs. Anna in The King and I. I love that musical. I think it's one of the most perfect musicals ever, and I so enjoyed the 3 different productions that I got to be a part of. In terms of just unabashed fun, playing Rizzo in Grease on Broadway was pretty fun.
Now, I have to say, I'm a little bit surprised at that, considering your strict upbringing, considering that you are a religious person with a Christian centered faith. Wasn't Grease pushing the envelope a little bit for you morally?
You know what? I get why you say that, and I did question it, not because I felt like it was pushing my morals, but I thought that people who have been loyal fans over the years might consider it somewhat of a selling out, and that was a bit of a struggle for me. My dad was very uncomfortable with it. He came to see me, and I think he would rather have left that one to his imagination.
But then again, I mean, would you, or certainly would he, how would he respond to the musicals of the past 20, 30 years? Everything from Sweeney Todd to Spring Awakening to Book of Mormon. I mean, there are things I guess you would not touch, and things that even further he would not want you to touch.
Yes, and that's where we've had to come to terms with the fact that I make those decisions for me, and he makes his decisions for himself, and we both have tremendous respect for each other, even though our decisions don't always line up.
That's totally fair. So let me ask you, Debby Boone, religiously, I mean, we're obviously of different faiths. How much, on a day-to-day basis, does religion play in your life? The part of it, do you go to church every week? I read somewhere that you listen to sermons in the car. How much actual religious stuff fills your life?
You know what? I have become increasingly more uncomfortable with the term religious, just because there's so many people who have been hurt by quote-unquote religion, and I feel like so very much of my life is consumed with my faith and my spirituality. I try to start every day with some quiet time of reading and praying and just allowing myself to become still and available to what the day has and where I'm supposed to be and how I'm supposed to grow and change and contribute that day. That's a big part of my life.
But that's Buddhism.
Call it what you will. I am certainly not a Buddhist. I am, over the years, my husband is an Episcopal priest. I don't know if you know that.
No, I had no idea. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and so that was a transition for me, and I have really embraced the Episcopal traditions and love all of the rituals and the liturgy and all of that. I find very nourishing, and the connection to a larger body and all of that, a calendar and, all of that is not stuff that I really grew up with. And I love that. So it is very much a part of my life, but I think one of the things that I've come to love about the Episcopal kind of theology is an openness about it, to allow people to observe their own religions and find God in their own way without judging it as less than or more than, or we're all on a journey searching, and I'm so grateful that I was raised to believe that there was something greater than myself that I could turn to, and I have always been a seeker and looking for truth in that way, and it has never let me down.
That's beautiful. It's spiritual. It's sublime. Which now the next question has to do with something the exact opposite: the horrible, the terrible, the disgusting. How did you survive being born and growing up in New Jersey?
I didn't grow up there. That's how I survived. No, I'm kidding. I was born there and left. By the time I was 4 years old, my parents moved to Beverly Hills, California, so I had to figure out how to survive there.
and also, before I let you go, I know we're a little bit over time, but if I can just take a couple more minutes, because we've gotten into your family a bit, but the fact that you did marry into the Ferrer family. We're talking Jose Ferrer and Rosemary Clooney, and there's a cousin George in there somewhere. I've heard it. I mean, do you guys get together for big family gatherings and stuff, or what?
Oh, yeah, we certainly do. We try to stay as connected as is humanly possible with everybody going 100 different directions. When Rosemary was still alive, and, there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss her terribly, the usual plan was whoever was in town on a Sunday, we had dinner on Sunday evenings at her home on Roxbury Drive in Beverly Hills, and her home was the hub for the family. Since she has been gone and that house was sold, our house has become more of the hub for various and sundry members of the Clooney Ferrer family and the Boone family to all congregate. But we get together as much as we can. Like I say, it's, in these busy, crazy times, it's hard to make it happen, but we do our best to all be with each other.
Now, you mentioned, of course, Rosemary Clooney, because you sang with her and did concerts with her. Very talented woman, but also obviously mentally ill at certain points and troubled. I mean, do you have memories of dealing with her in different stages of that, when she was perfectly great, and other times when she was, impossible, as it were?
I came in at the tail end of that, quite honestly. I think it was just, she was really finding her balance around the time that I started dating Miguel, the older brother. She wasn't quite there yet, but I really didn't know Rosemary until I started dating my husband, Gabrielle. And by that time, she had had a lot of therapy and, dealt with some of the addictive problems and that kind of thing. I certainly was exposed to times when Rosemary was not at her best, and she was exposed to some of my not so great sides as well. We're all human beings. I noticed that her kids, who, had the roller coaster ride with her, always got nervous when Rosemary had to take prednisone for her vocal cords, as often singers do, because a lot of her behavior began to be similar to the times when she was, using drugs and alcohol. Oh. So I would see them sort of go, oh, here she goes. I experienced that same sort of jittery, horrible agitation that comes from needing to use those things from time to time to sing. But I really was not exposed to the kind of things that my husband and the rest of the Ferrer kids had to live with when she was really struggling.
And on a happier sort of a note, are your women friends, and I'm sure you have tons of them, are they constantly pestering you for George Clooney's phone number?
No, I think people know that that's off limits. We very early on, when people were asking us to reach out, could you get George to do this or do that or contribute this or whatever, it was just like, that's off limits. He has enough people doing that. He doesn't need family members.
No, absolutely. It's just, but I imagine that every once in a while. And I guess closing up with Debby Boone here in the neighborhood, I've got to go back, and I know you must have answered this question zillions of times, but that was 25, 30 years ago. That moment, and when it hit, when you recorded that Joe Brooks song, You Light Up My Life. First of all, when you were doing it, did you realize that you had at least the potential for a huge hit on your hands? Did you not like the song and you never figured it would become anything? Take us back.
I had absolutely no idea that it was going to be a hit. I was thrilled just to be asked to come to New York and record a solo record. My mother was convinced it was going to be a hit, and I was convinced she was the typical mother who thought everything their kids do is, golden. So I was completely shocked that happened. I continue to be a little shocked.
And do you mind singing it? Is it one of those songs you have to sing because everybody expects it, and then you say, okay, let's roll? Or have you grown to love and accept the fact that it's giving you a life you may never have had otherwise?
I absolutely have grown to accept and love the fact that it has afforded me a connection with people I would never have had otherwise. And I pretty much sing it everywhere I go, although the two times, this time included, at Cafe Carlyle, and when I've done cabaret once before in New York, it is not a part of the show because the show has, a theme that it doesn't belong within that kind of context. But rarely do I do a show that's not part of it.
Well, I mean, in this particular, you could just change the lyrics a little. You swing up my life, yeah. Scooby-Dooby, you could, or maybe not.
I'll take that under consideration. I am going to have to fly. I'm late for an appointment.
Oi, Gewalt. Well, I just want to thank you ever so much. Debby Boone, it has been a delight. Go see her, please, at the Cafe Carlisle. She's playing March 19th through the 30th. Go get tickets. She's wonderful, as you have heard, and we thank you. God bless you so much for being in the neighborhood, Debbie.
Thank you, Rabbi.